Question number 9, Carol Beaumont.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. To the Minister of Tertiary Education, how does women's participation rate of 1% in building and construction industry training assist with the Christchurch rebuild?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, I think all participation is helpful in the rebuild. It would, of course, be good to see more women involved in building and construction in Canterbury. There is, of course, no practical limit on the number of female building and construction trades and apprenticeships, and there are places available right now, and I'd welcome more women to consider taking up those career opportunities. It is worth noting that the proportion of female industry trainees has been trending up over the last 7 years. It was 31% in 2012, and the proportion of female trainees in the 5 key building, construction and infrastructure ITOs is also trending up around the country, including in Canterbury, although it has to be said off a low base.
Supplementary question, Carol Beaumont.
How does women's participation rate of 4% in the boat building industry, 5% in the infrastructure industry or 7% in the electrical supply industry help with the better public service goal of increasing the number of people with advanced trades qualifications?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, it is true that in some areas that women have less participation in training and other areas are high. For example, in the area of universities and tertiary education generally, women are more involved than men. And you can't say that's necessarily a bad thing, Mr Speaker, but there are initiatives that we can take, and it's good that the member raises the Electricity Supply Industry Training Association, because they've got more initiatives, one called Ultimate, to encourage women to apply for trade and technical roles in their sector. There's things like CPIT's Top Female Student Award, which was announced today too, which is also designed to raise the profile of women in trades.
Supplementary question, Carol Beaumont.
What initiatives has he put in place to lift the participation rate of women in industry training, which has decreased from 30% in 2010 to 28% in 2013? He conveniently only talked about 2012.
Well, Mr Speaker,
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
My records here are 31% in 2012, but the member makes a very interesting point. And I do think it's fair that we consider more policy options, because as well as trying to lift the participation of women, we could perhaps restrict the participation of men until the participation of women gets to the same level. I think that's what's colloquially known as a man ban, and I think that could be a way in which we could achieve the outcome that the member is seeking.
Order. That order's not. That answer not going to help you. Order. Order. Supplementary question. Is there a supplementary question?
There is a supplementary.
Supplementary question, Carol Beaumont.
Getting back to the matter in
Order.
hand.
Supplementary question.
How successful does he believe the initiatives he has worked on with the Ministry of Women's Affairs, like a research project showing there is a pool of women available to assist in the Canterbury rebuild, or research following 9 women, that's right, 9 women in the electrical supply industry have been in lifting women's participation?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, they have had some success, but I stand by my view that there is perhaps more policy options we can consider. But I think it is important that if we did consider those policy options, that they were of a bipartisan nature, because some of those are quite challenging. So, for example, if we decided to introduce, let's say, a man ban...
Point of order. Mr Speaker, the Minister's diverting from the answer. He was asked about... no, he is. He is diverting from the answer. He's not addressing the question.
Order. I don't need any assistance. No, the Minister was not diverting from the answer until the very moment the member rose to his feet. So he's got supernatural powers to know that there was a word man ban about to be used, and at that stage I said to the Minister the answer was concluded.
No, Mr. Speaker.
We are in agreement, but on this occasion the member was almost...
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, I do think it is entirely fair if you're dealing with gender equality issues. One option is such a thing as a man ban, and many organisations have considered that. It's quite a genuine policy option. I was debating it in this House as an answer to a question.
Well, no, the member has a right to raise a point of order. I will determine whether it's a point of order, and on that matter I don't need assistance from this side of the House. The question was, how successful have the Minister's initiatives been? And the Minister answered that by saying there has been some success.
Mr Speaker, the Minister did not answer
Order.
the question about...
Order. Oh, come on. I have only just finished ruling that the Minister did address the question the member asked. I invite the member later on today to have a look at her question and the answer. It was without doubt addressed by the Minister.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Point of order, Grant Robertson.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not contesting the last ruling that you've made, but I do note the difference in your response to Carol Beaumont challenging your ruling and Stephen Joyce, who was allowed to speak for some time before you stood up, and that's an issue for us on this side of the House.
And I appreciate that point, but when I have just finished ruling that the question was addressed and used that in an answer to addressing the point of order raised by the Honourable Stephen Joyce, it is absolutely fruitless, pointless for the member to stand and then say the question had not been addressed when I just sat down from, returned to my seat, having said it was. Order.
Point of order.
Point of order from the Honourable Shane Jones.
Sir, I think the point we're seeking to make, without creating any further trouble, is that when you shout, it brings disorder to the House.
And I thank the member for his incisive point of order, and when the member continues to shout, as he has done throughout question time, that also assists in bringing disorder to the House. Both of us, the Honourable Shane Jones and myself, need to be more careful in not raising our voices. Question number 10, Dr Cam Calder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister of Education.
Order.
What recent announcements?
Order. Dr Cam Calder, would he start again?
To the Minister of Education. What recent announcements has she made to strengthen the status of the teaching profession?
Honourable Hekia Parata.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. Today I was delighted to launch the inaugural Prime Minister's Education Excellence Awards, which aim to recognise, value and celebrate the teaching